Hello, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new here. I quit being blonde. That's a development. Also, I'm filming in the most weird way possible. Just because I liked this background, but this is gonna be a quad workout, probably. We'll get there when we get there. I'll let you know in like 20 minutes. We are here for my August TBR, and it's nice to have a plan again. I'm trying to make it a realistic plan. There's a lot of moving parts in my life right now, and I just need a little bit of structure, a little bit of routine. And what better way to gamify and structure routine in reading than with readathons? So I am back on my readathon bullshit. Here's the things I'm squeezing into August. 1, full moon readathon hosted by Jan from Jan Agaton. I almost said Ann Jagaton. Not your name. Her readathon spin-off of her full moon book club, which is a blast, and I'm excited. There's a bunch of different like little creatures and characters, and we'll talk about that in a second. That's like a week. What are the dates? A weekend. 7th through the 11th. So that'll be a little weekend reading treat for myself. Then there's also Studio Ghibli readathon happening, hosted by a whole bunch of my friends on the booktube world. I helped host this readathon last year with them, and this year I just needed to like take a step back, but I still want to try and participate and fill up my bingo board as much as I can. And also August is Women in Translation Month, and you know, if you've been around on my channel, that I host a readathon with two of my other lovely friends, Brittany from Literarily Smitten and Annie from Annie's Book Nook, and the three of us in January started Found in Translation, a book club for reading novels in translation. And our book club pick for August is A Woman in Translation, and there's a couple other ones I'm gonna try and squeeze in also. So those three things are kind of my guiding North Stars for August. And then outside of that, you know, there's some mood reading, there's some book club stuff, there's some secret projects that I'm still working on that I keep teasing. It's just that I have, in typical Noelle fashion, I just have a handful of secret projects. So I'm slowly chipping away at each of them rather than like dedicating time to one project at a time. You know how it goes. It's fine. So I think I'm gonna start by telling you my TBR for the full moon readathon, because I actually will have that weekend off. Like, first time ever I can actually fully participate in a weekend readathon. So I will be taking full advantage. And of course all the info on Jan's channel and announcement will be below. But it's fun because you have to go in order. There's 4 different characters. Each character has 2 prompts and like a life challenge prompt. From like the crescent moon to the half moon to the full moon. So cute, I love it. And to collect a character, you have to do the 3 in order. So I will for sure be attempting the wolf, and then possibly also the witch. So the first prompt for the wolf is a book that has an animal on the cover, and I'm gonna be reading Mozart's Starling by Lyanda, Lynn, Haupt. This is This is the same author as one of my favorite books, Crow Planet, and I've just been really jonesing for like more nature writing, more of this kind of like intersection of nature and philosophy that she's just so good at. I loved Crow Planet because it completely changed my perspective on like backyard nature and brought me this new appreciation and gratitude for the nature that I see every day. And I know that, I hope, a similar vibe will be in Mozart's Starling, which is about both music and birds, which are 2 things that I deeply, deeply love. And in particular, I know that this author compares how Wolfgang Mozart became besties with this bird, and reflecting on his life and his relationship with nature, and also her as a scientist and naturalist becomes friends with a starling as well, even though that's kind of a no-no in the realm of like environmentalism and preservation, because they completely take over the ecosystems that they find themselves in. So I'm excited. Probably no one cares about this book except for me, but it's just what I need right now, you know? Then the next one for Wolf is a book that you received as a gift, and I'm very excited to finally be reading The Sirens of Titan by Kurt Vonnegut. This will be actually my first Kurt Vonnegut, and I received this as a gift from my Uncle Mark, who watches most of my videos. Hi Mark. And he sends me little letters with all the books. I keep all of them inside the books that he sends me. This one is particularly special because it's first edition, and that freaks me out a little bit because I'm like, oh, my grubby little hands all over this gorgeous special book, but like books are supposed to be read, you know, so that's what I'm telling myself. And I know that this is a classic in the genre. It's a classic as far as Kurt Vonnegut goes. It's maybe his second, one of his earlier works for sure, and I don't know much about the plot of it. I'm just gonna dive in. The cover is sick. Sirens of Titan. Sold. I want to get through more of these like classic sci-fi because I recently read Dune, and that was an experience. So now I'm on this trajectory of reading more classic sci-fi, and here we are. Okay, for The Witch, if I get to The Witch, I'm gonna do those two for The Wolf first, and then if I'm just having a real superstar weekend, then the first one for Witch is just simply contains magic or involves magic. And for this, I will be reading Jade War and or Jade Legacy. I'm trying to read both of those this month because my friends who host the Fantaseries book club are wrapping up their marathon of the series and will be having the live show for the third book, Jade Legacy. I think Christine said it in the middle of the month. So I have a deadline to read both of these gigantic fantasy tomes. Both of them are longer than Dune, which is just making me giggle that I procrastinated Dune for so long. This is not a wrap-up. Jade War, Jade Legacy are both on the TBR. I have them both on audio. That's how I read this first one, Jade City, and I'm ready to take a stab at it. I know it's gonna hurt me. This is the series, Jade City specifically, because I haven't read the last two yet. This is the series that made me fall back in love with fantasy as a genre. It's so fresh and unique. The characters are so deep and flawed and intricate and just have so many like private and individual motivations. It's like so messy, this world where you can touch jade, like the stone, and it has magical powers, or it gives the holder of the stone magical powers. But as like a cost of using the jade, it can become addictive without proper training to handle the jade. So you can imagine how this infects like the black market, the economy, the military, the politics of everything is all wrapped up in jade. And it's fascinating, and I'm obsessed, and I will be reading them in time to come to that live show, because I'm gonna have serious FOMO otherwise, and I can actually make the live show now. It's happening. So whichever one of those two I'm on by the time I get to the full moon readathon will be the one I read. Then the second one for Witch is set in autumn, like during the time of year. You know what autumn is. Why am I over explaining autumn? Anyways, this was actually kind of hard because I don't really seek out books that are set in that time. It's my least favorite season. And also, just like scouring my shelves, it's not really something that is told to you in the premise, unless you already know, like if it's a reread maybe or something. But I deduced, I think, through context clues, that Pride is probably set in the fall, because it talks about how they're at the end of high school and college applications are looming around the corner. And I know I had to finish my college applications like the beginning of my senior year of high school, so like September through November, which is fall. And if it's not fall, then I tried. You may be able to tell, but this is a Pride and Prejudice retelling that takes place in modern day Brooklyn. That's all I need to know. I think it's gonna be fantastic. I recently picked this up used, and it's in gorgeous, perfect condition, and I am just in the mood for like a cozy retelling. Like there's like the myth retellings, and I'm recently discovering that I really love classic retellings. I didn't know there would be like two different forks of the retelling road. However, here we are, Pride. Hopefully it's in fall. Okay, I'm like halfway through this video and I'm feeling my quads. So I really like this background. I'm gonna have to figure out a more permanent setup. But anyways, this will motivate me not to like ramble forever like I always do. Next is Women in Translation Month, where I mentioned that we already read a bunch of translated books for book club, and funny enough, classic, I still have yet to finish July's pick, which is Vita Nostra, which is written by a woman in part. It's by a couple, I think, Maryna and Serhiy Dyachenko, so that counts. I'm almost done. I better be done soon because the live show is next week, because I requested that we push it back because I'm a professional like that. This is kind of dark academia / magic school. It is a translated fantasy, but it takes kind of this dark twist, which is why I'm calling it dark academia, though I am not the one qualified to actually give that distinction. But it is kind of messy. There's this young girl who meets this stranger who gives her gold coins for doing these like little tasks, and then finds herself swept up in this magic school that's pretty like toxic and manipulative. It uses like fear and terror to keep the students in line. But they kind of deal with it because they're learning all of these amazing, miraculous, fantastical things. So it's this duality of like, I'm loving the results, but the way there is really horrible. This I also don't feel like I'm explaining very well, but if you want fantasy and translated work, here you are. I think this is one of the more well-known, like, popular translated works, and I'm really stoked to finally have, like, gotten to this, you know? And then for August, our actual pick for Women in Translation Month is Violets by Kyung-Sook Shin. This is a new release. It's kind of a slice of life literary fiction that's translated from Korean. And slice of life because it's like takes place in 1970s maybe? I think this is 1990s, sorry. Where this young woman lands a job at a flower shop and kind of goes through her summer just like drifting through life without feeling like she's the main character, you know? She comes into contact with all these different people around the flower shop and around where she lives, and then becomes entangled with this photographer, I want to say, and things get messy. And that's all I really know. I think it'll be a good one for book club. It feels like the type of book that's just going to be like all character, no plot. And considering all of the plot-heavy books I have planned, I think this will be very refreshing. If I have time, you know, in this very not overcommitted at all TBR, if I have time to pick up another translated work this month, I would love to read Isabel Allende's new book this year, Violeta, which I don't know anything about it other than she wrote it, and everything I've read by her I love. So that's on my radar. That's like a stretch goal, you know? Then for my book club, Hot Girl Book Club, in August, we are reading Does My Body Offend You?, which is one of the few YA books I've chosen for book club. And I will be joined for discussion by my friend Catherine from Catherine Zofrey. And I love this cover. It's like so pink and fun. I love the font. And this is about two girls who aren't necessarily friends at high school, but form this alliance when one of them gets like a strike on her record for violating the dress code by not wearing a bra one day, like because of pain. And then it sparks this whole like revolution at their high school, hence the title, Does My Body Offend You? This is funny because before I knew anything about it, I thought it was a nonfiction, just has that kind of vibe in that title. But knowing this is about like girls in high school dealing with the dress code and unlikely friendships, that makes me even more excited about it, because if you were a girl in high school, you have battled that silly, stupid dress code. And I'm looking forward to discussion. I think this will be a really fun one, or maybe not so fun, but maybe, you know, cathartic to talk about in book club. And I'm excited to see all of the different girls come together in this book. I think it'll be a great time. Next, I did these backwards. This was my July pick for book club that I also still have to finish because it's the way that I am. It's a problem. It's fine, it's fine. The book is The Memory Librarian and Other Stories of Dirty Computer by Janelle Monáe, and this is a sci-fi futuristic story collection that pairs with her musical album of the same name, Dirty Computer. And I've asked Monique from the Roomies Digest to read and discuss this with me because she is a fellow sci-fi girly and also a music girly. And so I'm really, really excited to see how Mo thinks and feels about this with book club. But also, it just sounds so cool, and that's why I've really been taking my time. Let me read you the little blurb, because this is better than I could ever say it. Worldwide superstar Janelle Monáe brings to the written page the Afro-futuristic world of one of her critically acclaimed albums, exploring how different threads of liberation, queerness, race, gender plurality, and love become tangled with future possibilities of memory and time in such a totalitarian landscape, and what the costs might be when trying to unravel and weave them into freedoms. I don't want to over-explain it because that is part of the joy of reading it so far, is just being along for the ride. That's it. The live show will be a week from today by the time you're seeing this video. So get on it. Snatch it up. Almost done. I can't wait to sit down for the rest of the day. Why did I do this? Okay, another one that I'm reading this month is It Happened One Summer, which will be my first Tessa Bailey. That's not true. I did read Tessa Bailey's like Christmas novella last year or the year before, and it was like fine. And so I'm reading It Happened One Summer for the enemies to romance vibe, for the Schitt's Creek retelling vibe allegedly. I've heard wonderful, wonderful things. I've also heard trash can things. So I'm looking forward to seeing where I will fall on that spectrum. And I mentioned Studio Ghibli, so basically I'm just trying to fit in all of the books I've already mentioned to the bingo board, and I'll be going to like sprints that they host throughout the month and all of that, but there might be a couple more that I squeeze in because we know I like to just throw my TBR out the window sometimes. So if I do, I'll be trying to mix and match them into the board. So right now I have it planned out to where the 2 top rows of the bingo board I can get done with just the books I've already mentioned. And anything else, I'm gonna try and just fit into the rest. Maybe do the top 3 rows. Crazy. But yeah, if you haven't heard of the Studio Ghibli readathon, they're gonna be doing watch parties for the movies, they'll be reading sprints, there's a whole quiz you can take. Like each movie has its own prompts, so if you don't want to worry about the bingo board, you could just do like 3 prompts for the movie. So you could take a quiz, get matched to a movie. It's so fun. You know, for such a big TBR, I don't have many of them physically. So this feels significantly less intimidating than all of the books I just told you about, but that's typical. This is a few that I own, which is maybe half of the TBR I set for myself. Let me know if there's anything fun that you are reading for or participating in the month of August, because I know there's so many, and I only picked a couple because I'm only one measly small person, but there's always so many readathons and things going on. I would love to know. Otherwise, thank you for watching. I hope everything is well, and I will see you very soon. Love you, bye.